The morning sun sparkled off the polished windows of Elite Motors as Dr. Maya Richardson pulled into the parking lot in her reliable but aging Honda Civic. It was 10 o'clock a.m. on a Saturday, a day she had specifically chosen after 6 months of careful research and saving. At 35 years old, Maya had finally reached a point in her career where she could fulfill her childhood dream of owning a luxury car. The dealership's exterior was impressive, with its modern glass architecture and perfectly maintained landscape. Range Rovers, Mercedes-Benzes, and BMWs lined the front lot like soldiers standing at attention, their pristine surfaces reflecting the bright morning light. Maya took a deep breath, checking her appearance one last time in her car's rearview mirror. Her natural hair was neatly styled in a professional manner, and she had chosen to dress comfortably in dark blue jeans, a crisp white blouse, and sensible flats. Weekend attire that was both casual and put together. As she stepped out of her car, Maya's hand automatically touched the lanyard in her purse that held her hospital ID. Being the youngest chief of neurosurgery at Central Memorial Hospital came with its own set of challenges, and over the years, she had grown accustomed to carrying proof of her credentials. Not that she should need them to buy a car, she thought to herself, but experience had taught her to be prepared. The clicking of her shoes against the polished floor echoed through the showroom as she entered. The space was climate-controlled to perfection, with that distinct new car smell mixed with leather and luxury. Classical music played softly in the background, and the lights were strategically placed to make every vehicle's paint job gleam like jewelry. There were 3 other customers in the showroom, an older white couple being attended to by an enthusiastic salesman, and a middle-aged man in a business suit who already had 2 salespeople hovering around him. Maya's eyes were drawn to a particular silver S-Class Mercedes-Benz displayed on a slowly rotating platform. She had spent countless hours researching this exact model, knowing its specifications by heart. The car represented everything she had worked for since she was a young girl growing up in a modest neighborhood in Detroit, where her mother worked double shifts as a nurse to support their family. Walking closer to the vehicle, Maya noticed her reflection in its flawless surface. She smiled, remembering how her father used to tell her, "Baby girl, one day you'll drive something so nice, it'll make people's heads turn." He hadn't lived to see her graduate medical school, but she knew he would have been proud of this moment. 3 salespeople stood at their desk station, all of them clearly visible from where Maya was standing. One was finishing a phone call, another was typing on his computer, and the third was organizing what appeared to be paperwork. None of them looked up or acknowledged her presence, despite the small bell that had chimed when she entered the showroom. Maya began to walk around the S-Class, admiring its elegant lines and features. She had already calculated the payments, though she planned to pay cash, something that usually made dealerships very happy. Her financial advisor had even suggested she finance it for the credit benefits, but Maya preferred the simplicity of an outright purchase. The irony of being ignored while having the means to make one of their largest sales of the month wasn't lost on her. After completing a full circle around the vehicle, she paused at the driver's side door, her fingers hovering just above the pristine surface, not quite touching it. The window sticker listed all the premium features she had researched: the advanced driver assistance package, the premium Burmester sound system, the executive rear seat package. The price tag of $127,895 didn't make her flinch. She had prepared for this. 5 more minutes passed. Maya watched as a new customer, a man in golf attire, walked in through the front door. Within seconds, one of the salespeople who had been steadfastly ignoring her presence practically sprinted to greet him with a warm smile and an outstretched hand. Maya's expression remained neutral, but her brown eyes took in every detail of the scene unfolding before her. She had experienced similar situations before, at restaurants, in high-end stores, even at medical conferences before people realized she was a speaker rather than an attendee. This wasn't her first encounter with such treatment, and she had learned to handle these moments with a grace that often surprised those around her. Little did the Elite Motors staff know that this ordinary Saturday was about to become extraordinary, and their assumptions about the quiet woman in simple clothes were about to be dramatically challenged. The contrast in treatment became even more obvious as Maya continued to stand near the Mercedes-Benz she hoped to purchase. The salesman who had rushed to greet the golf-attired customer was now laughing loudly at what seemed to be a mediocre joke, his entire body language screaming eagerness to please. Maya could hear fragments of their conversation about golf courses and country clubs, topics that apparently warranted immediate attention and respect. 20 minutes had now passed since her arrival. During this time, Maya had witnessed 4 more customers enter the showroom. Each one received prompt attention. A middle-aged white couple looking for an SUV, a young man in an expensive suit interested in a sports car, and an elderly gentleman who appeared to be a regular customer. The salespeople moved with practiced efficiency, offering coffee, water, and branded Elite Motors brochures to each new arrival. Maya decided to walk around the showroom, her steps deliberate and unhurried. She moved from car to car, noting the features of each vehicle, occasionally stopping to read the information cards placed next to them. Her mother had always taught her to carry herself with dignity, regardless of how others treated her. Your response to disrespect, she would say, shows more about your character than their behavior shows about theirs. Near the back of the showroom, Maya noticed a young trainee salesperson organizing product catalogs. For a brief moment, their eyes met, and the young man seemed about to approach her. However, one of the senior salespeople quickly called him over, directing him to handle some paperwork instead. The message was clear. Maya wasn't considered worth even a trainee's time. The air conditioning hummed softly overhead as Maya approached a touchscreen display showing vehicle customization options. She began to explore different features, her fingers moving confidently across the screen as she selected various packages and upgrades. A couple standing nearby watched with obvious discomfort as the salespeople continued to ignore her presence. The wife whispered something to her husband, who shook his head disapprovingly at the situation. Finally, after almost 30 minutes of being overlooked, Maya decided to take the initiative. She walked directly to the main sales desk where 3 salespeople were gathered, discussing what sounded like weekend plans. As she approached, the conversation didn't pause. The one of them glanced briefly in her direction before returning to the discussion about an upcoming golf tournament. "Excuse me," Maya said politely, her voice carrying the quiet authority that came from years of leading surgical teams. "I'm interested in purchasing a vehicle today." The shortest of the 3 salesmen, whose nameplate read Rick Peterson, finally turned to acknowledge her. His eyes quickly scanned her outfit, the simple jeans, the modest blouse, the practical shoes, and his lips curved into what could only be described as a condescending smile. "Our pre-owned section is in the next building," Rick said, pointing toward a door that led to a separate showroom. "That might be more suitable for your budget. Sarah handles those, and she'll be back from lunch in about an hour." The assumption stung, but Maya's expression remained composed. She had earned her medical degree from Johns Hopkins, completed her residency at Mayo Clinic, and performed countless life-saving surgeries. Yet here she stood, being judged by her appearance and race rather than her achievements or actual purchasing power. 2 other customers who had entered after her were now being shown the exact Mercedes-Benz model she had come to purchase. Maya watched as Rick's colleague enthusiastically detailed the vehicle's features, the same features she could have recited from memory after months of research. The showroom's background music seemed to grow louder in the awkward silence that followed Rick's dismissive suggestion. A nearby cleaning staff member, who had been quietly dusting the vehicles, slowed her movements, clearly aware of the unfolding situation. The young trainee from earlier was now watching the scene unfold from behind his desk, his discomfort visible. Maya's hand rested on her purse, where both her hospital ID and the pre-approval letter from her bank lay waiting. She had anticipated some challenges today, but the blatant dismissal still caught her off guard. However, Dr. Maya Richardson hadn't become one of the youngest chief neurosurgeons in the country by backing down from difficult situations. Her response would need to be calculated, measured, and memorable, not just for her own dignity, but for everyone who had ever faced similar treatment. The next few moments would transform what these salespeople thought would be an ordinary Saturday into a powerful lesson about prejudice, professionalism, and the danger of making assumptions. Rick Peterson's suggestion about the pre-owned section hung in the air like a heavy cloud. Maya took a deep breath, squaring her shoulders as she prepared to address the situation. The cleaning lady had completely stopped pretending to dust now, and several customers had turned their attention to the unfolding scene. "Actually," Maya said, her voice clear and steady, "I'm interested in the new S-Class Mercedes-Benz. The one with the executive package." She maintained direct eye contact with Rick, whose condescending smile began to falter slightly. Rick exchanged quick glances with his colleagues before clearing his throat. Ma'am, that particular vehicle starts at over $125,000. Perhaps I could show you something more reasonable. We have some nice certified pre-owned C-Class models that... Is there a reason, Maya interrupted smoothly, why you assume I can't afford that car? The question hung in the air like a challenge. Other salespeople stopped their conversations to watch, and the couple being shown the Mercedes stepped back, clearly uncomfortable with the situation. The showroom had grown so quiet that the soft classical music playing through the speakers seemed suddenly too loud. Rick shifted his weight from one foot to another, his confidence visibly shaking. I'm simply trying to help you find something within your means, he said, his tone becoming defensive. We wouldn't want to waste anyone's time. A well-dressed older man who had been examining a nearby BMW spoke up. I've been watching this whole situation unfold for the past 30 minutes. This lady has been here longer than any of us, yet your staff has ignored her completely. His words carried the weight of authority, making several salespeople look down at their shoes. Maya raised her hand politely to the man, signaling that she appreciated his support but could handle this herself. She turned back to Rick, who was now starting to look genuinely uncomfortable. Let me ask you something, Mr. Peterson, she said, her voice remaining professional but firm. What exactly about my appearance led you to make assumptions about my means? The young trainee who had earlier wanted to help Maya was now watching with wide eyes, clearly taking mental notes on how not to treat customers. The cleaning lady had moved closer, pretending to polish an already spotless display case. Rick began to stammer. Ma'am, I didn't mean to. We just try to direct customers to vehicles that, it's our job to. It's your job to judge people based on their appearance. Maya asked, raising an eyebrow. She reached into her purse, causing Rick to take a small step backward. Slowly, she pulled out 2 items, her hospital ID and a bank letter. The silence in the showroom grew even deeper as Maya held up her ID. I'm Dr. Maya Richardson, Chief of Neurosurgery at Central Memorial Hospital. This letter, she continued, holding up the second document, is from my bank, pre-approving me for any vehicle on your showroom floor. I came here today planning to pay cash for that S-Class. Several gasps could be heard around the showroom. Rick's face had turned a shade of red that almost matched the Ferrari displayed in the corner. His colleagues, who had been watching from a safe distance, now looked like they wanted to disappear into the expensive carpet beneath their feet. The sales manager, who had finally noticed the commotion from his office, began making his way across the showroom floor. He wore an expensive suit and a concerned expression, clearly sensing that something had gone very wrong. But you know what's interesting? Maya continued, her voice now carrying across the entire showroom. I'm not even angry about how you treated me. I'm disappointed that in 2024, people still face this kind of prejudice. I'm sad for all the other customers who might walk through those doors and face similar treatment. And I'm especially concerned about what this teaches that young man over there, she gestured to the trainee, about how to succeed in business. The sales manager had nearly reached them now, his pace quickening as he realized the severity of the situation. Other customers had completely abandoned their own dealings to watch the scene unfold, many nodding in agreement with Maya's words. Maya wasn't finished yet. She carefully placed her ID and bank letter back in her purse, her movements deliberate and composed. What she would say next would not only change the atmosphere in the showroom, but would lead to lasting changes in how Elite Motors conducted its business. James Mitchell, the sales manager, reached the scene just as Maya was about to continue. His expensive suit and perfectly styled gray hair suggested someone used to handling high-end clients. But even he seemed taken aback by the tension in the air. Is there a problem here? James asked, trying to sound calm and professional. He glanced nervously between Maya and Rick, who was still standing there with his face flushed red. Maya turned to face the manager, her posture straight and confident. Yes, there is a problem, Mr. Mitchell, she said, reading his name tag. I've spent the last 45 minutes in your showroom being completely ignored by your staff. When I finally got someone's attention, I was immediately directed to your pre-owned section without any questions about my budget or interests. The manager opened his mouth to speak, but Maya held up her hand politely. Please, let me finish. Her voice remained steady and clear, carrying across the now silent showroom. I perform brain surgeries for a living, Mr. Mitchell. Every day, I work with people of all backgrounds, races, and economic status. In my operating room, everyone gets the same level of care and respect. Several customers nodded in agreement. The elderly man who had spoken up earlier had moved closer, along with his wife. The young trainee had pulled out a small notebook and was quietly taking notes. What's most interesting, Maya continued, pulling out her phone, is that I've been recording statistics about my experience here today. She opened her notes app and began to read. In the time I've been here, 8 other customers have entered. All of them were greeted within 2 minutes of arrival. 6 were offered refreshments. 4 were immediately shown the luxury vehicles they expressed interest in. James Mitchell's professional smile began to fade as he realized the detailed documentation Maya had been keeping. Other salespeople in the showroom started to look increasingly uncomfortable. Dr. Richardson, the manager, began, his tone apologetic. I want to personally assure you. I'm not finished, Maya said firmly. She scrolled through her phone. I also noticed that your dealership has a 4.2-star rating online. But when I filtered the reviews by minority customers, that rating drops to 2.8 stars. I took the time to read those reviews last night. The patterns are remarkable. The cleaning lady, who had been pretending to dust the same spot for the past 10 minutes, let out a quiet mmm. Several other customers were now using their own phones, presumably looking up the reviews Maya mentioned. Maya then did something unexpected. She smiled warmly at the young trainee who had wanted to help her earlier. Young man, what's your name? Marcus, ma'am, he replied nervously. Marcus Thompson. Marcus, come here for a moment, Maya requested. The trainee looked at his manager, who nodded stiffly, and walked over. Marcus, how long have you been working here? 2 weeks, Dr. Richardson, he answered. I'm still in training. Maya turned back to the manager. Mr. Mitchell, I believe Marcus is the only black employee I've seen in your showroom today. Would you say that's accurate? The silence that followed was deafening. James Mitchell tugged at his collar, clearly uncomfortable with the direction of the conversation. The other salespeople seemed to find the floor particularly interesting at that moment. Here's what I propose, Maya said, pulling out a business card from her purse. I'm on the board of several professional organizations focused on diversity in business. We offer training programs, consultation, and resources to help businesses better serve diverse communities. She handed the card to the manager. Your dealership could benefit from our expertise. The manager looked at the card, then at Maya, realization dawning on his face. This wasn't just a customer complaint. This was an opportunity for significant change. The other customers in the showroom were watching intently, many with expressions of approval. Rick Peterson, who had been silent for several minutes, finally spoke up. Dr. Richardson, I owe you an apology. His voice was shaky but sincere. What happened next would not only change Elite Motors' approach to customer service, but would also become a case study in how to transform discrimination into an opportunity for growth and learning. The atmosphere in the Elite Motors showroom had transformed completely. What had started as a typical Saturday morning had evolved into a powerful moment of truth and transformation. Maya's words had created ripples that were now spreading through the entire dealership. David Chen, the owner of Elite Motors, had been watching the situation unfold from his upstairs office through the glass walls. He was a successful businessman who had built his dealership empire from scratch over 30 years. Now, seeing the scene below, he knew he needed to intervene. He made his way down the curved staircase, his presence causing a new wave of whispers among the gathered crowd. Dr. Richardson, David said as he approached, his voice carrying both authority and genuine concern. I'm David Chen, the owner of Elite Motors. I've been observing everything from my office, and I must say, your handling of this situation is extraordinary. Maya turned to face him, maintaining her professional composure. The other customers watched intently as Mr. Chen, known throughout the city as a tough but fair businessman, stood before the woman his staff had dismissed. Mr. Chen, Maya responded, I appreciate you coming down to address this situation. But I want to be clear, this isn't just about me. It's about every person who walks through those doors and faces judgment based on their appearance. A middle-aged black woman in the crowd stepped forward. I've been watching everything, she said, her voice trembling slightly. "Last month, I came here with my husband to look at a BMW. We were treated the same way, but we just left quietly. We bought our car from another dealership instead." More customers began sharing their experiences. An Asian doctor mentioned being directed to more affordable options despite being there to buy a Porsche. A successful Hispanic businessman described having to bring his white friend along to be taken seriously. The young trainee, Marcus, gathered courage and spoke up. "Mr. Chen, during my training, I noticed some customers were labeled as priority on our system based on how they dressed or what car they arrived in." His voice was nervous but determined. "It never felt right to me." David Chen listened to each story, his expression growing more concerned with each revelation. The sales manager, James Mitchell, had pulled out his notebook and was writing frantically, documenting every testimony. "Dr. Richardson," Mr. Chen said after hearing several stories, "would you be willing to help us make this right?" He gestured to the conference room visible through glass doors. "I'd like to invite you, and anyone else who wishes to share their experiences, to have an open discussion about how we can do better." Maya looked around the showroom. The cleaning lady had stopped pretending to clean and was now standing proudly, nodding in agreement. Rick Peterson, the salesman who had dismissed her, stood quietly in a corner, his earlier arrogance replaced by what appeared to be genuine shame and reflection. "Mr. Chen," Maya replied, "I would be happy to help. But first, I'd like to hear your plan for immediate changes." She gestured toward Marcus. "Starting with promoting qualified individuals like Marcus to full sales positions and ensuring your staff reflects the diversity of your customers." The owner nodded thoughtfully. "Agreed. Marcus, would you be interested in becoming our first diversity and inclusion coordinator, along with your sales role? We'll provide proper training and adjust your compensation accordingly." Marcus's eyes widened with surprise and hope. "Yes, sir. I would be honored." The elderly man who had first spoken up in Maya's defense approached Mr. Chen. "I've been buying cars from you for 15 years, David. Today made me realize I should have spoken up sooner about what I've observed. Count me in for your discussion group." As people gathered near the conference room, the energy in the showroom had shifted from tension to possibility. The other salespeople, who had been watching from a distance, began approaching Maya one by one, offering sincere apologies and asking how they could learn to do better. What had started as an attempt to humiliate had transformed into a moment of community action and corporate responsibility. Maya's dignified response had not only addressed the immediate situation, but was setting in motion changes that would affect countless future customers. The Elite Motors conference room, usually reserved for high-level business meetings, now hosted an unprecedented gathering. Maya sat at the head of the large oak table with David Chen, the owner, to her right, and Marcus, the young trainee, to her left. Around the table sat a mix of customers, staff members, and concerned community members who had stayed to participate in this important discussion. Maya pulled out her laptop and opened it with purpose. "I prepared a short presentation," she said, connecting her computer to the room's large screen. "Not as a complaint, but as a roadmap for positive change." The screen lit up with statistics, charts, and real customer reviews she had gathered. "In the medical field," Maya began, her voice carrying the same authority she used in hospital board meetings, "we have something called rounds, where we discuss cases openly to learn and improve. Today, we're going to do something similar." The cleaning lady, whose name was Rosa Martinez, had been invited to join the meeting. She sat up straight in her chair, no longer hiding her interest. "I've worked here for 5 years," she shared, her voice gaining confidence. "I've seen so many people like Dr. Richardson being treated poorly, but I was afraid to speak up because I needed this job." David Chen leaned forward, his expression serious. "Mrs. Martinez, your job was never at risk for speaking the truth. But I understand why you felt that way, and that needs to change." He turned to address the entire room. "We're going to create an anonymous reporting system for both staff and customers." Marcus, now sitting taller with his new responsibility as diversity coordinator, opened his notebook. "I've been writing down ideas," he said. "What if we created a training program that includes real experiences from customers? With their permission, of course." The elderly customer who had defended Maya earlier raised his hand. "Tom Roberts," he introduced himself. "I'm a retired high school principal. I'd be happy to help develop cultural sensitivity training materials. I've done this kind of work before. Maya nodded approvingly and clicked to her next slide. It showed successful diversity programs from other businesses. These companies saw their customer satisfaction ratings increase by an average of 60% after implementing similar changes, she explained. Rick Peterson, who had been sitting quietly in the corner, finally spoke up. Dr. Richardson, he said, his voice humbled, I'd like to be part of the change. Maybe I could share my story of how my biases affected my behavior as a warning to others. The room fell silent, surprised by Rick's offer. Maya smiled encouragingly. That's exactly the kind of personal accountability we need, Mr. Peterson. Thank you. James Mitchell, the sales manager, was rapidly typing on his tablet. I'm already updating our sales protocols, he announced. From now on, customers will be helped in the order they arrive, no exceptions. We're removing all appearance-based priority flags from our system. A young woman in business attire who had witnessed everything spoke up. I'm Sarah Chen, David's daughter and our marketing director, she said. I'd like to propose we create a diversity advisory board. Dr. Richardson, would you consider chairing it? Maya looked thoughtful. I would, but with one condition. The board needs to include people from all walks of life, not just professionals. She gestured to Rosa. Mrs. Martinez, would you join as well? Rosa's eyes widened with surprise and pride. Yes, I would, she said, sitting even straighter in her chair. David Chen stood up, commanding attention. Starting Monday, we're implementing immediate changes. All sales staff will undergo mandatory training. We're revising our hiring practices to ensure our team reflects our community. And he paused, looking at Marcus. We're creating 2 new management positions focused on diversity and customer experience. The energy in the room was electric with possibility. What had started as a confrontation about discrimination was transforming into a model for corporate change. People were taking notes, sharing ideas, and making commitments to specific actions. Maya watched as the room buzzed with productive discussion. She had turned a moment of humiliation into an opportunity for lasting change, not through anger or revenge, but through education and leadership. The afternoon sun streaming through the conference room windows seemed to highlight the promise of a new beginning for Elite Motors. As the meeting in the conference room concluded, the late afternoon sun cast long shadows across the showroom floor. David Chen stood up to make one final announcement that would surprise everyone, especially Maya. Dr. Richardson, he said, his voice firm with conviction, I'd like to make you an offer that goes beyond our diversity initiatives. He pulled out a folder from his briefcase. I want to offer you the S-Class Mercedes you came to purchase today, at cost price, with all additional features included. Maya raised her hand politely to stop him. Mr. Chen, while I appreciate the gesture, I didn't come here today to get a discount. That would defeat the purpose of everything we discussed. I'll pay the full price, just like any other customer should. The room fell silent, impressed by Maya's integrity. David Chen nodded with newfound respect. Then allow me to be the one to personally handle your purchase, with Marcus assisting in his new role. It would be an honor. As they moved back to the showroom floor, Maya noticed significant changes had already taken place. The salespeople who had ignored her earlier were now treating every customer with equal attention. Rick Peterson was earnestly helping an elderly black couple who had walked in, showing them the same respect and enthusiasm he had previously reserved for his preferred clients. Sarah Chen, the marketing director, approached Maya with a professional camera crew. Dr. Richardson, would you be comfortable sharing your story as part of our new training video? We want to document this day as the turning point for Elite Motors. Yes, Maya agreed, but I'd like to include other voices too. She gestured to Rosa Martinez, who was still beaming from her new appointment to the diversity board. Everyone's story matters in this change. Marcus, now wearing a newly printed name badge that read Diversity Coordinator and Sales Associate, proudly led Maya to the S-Class she had originally come to see. His hand shook slightly with excitement as he opened the door for her. Dr. Richardson, he said, would you like to take it for a test drive? The keys jingled in his hand as he presented them to her with the professionalism of a seasoned salesperson. Maya settled into the driver's seat, appreciating how the leather felt exactly as she had imagined during her months of research. The new car smell mixed with the lingering scent of success, Not just her personal victory, but a victory for change. Tom Roberts, the retired principal, had stayed to watch the sale. "You know," he said to the gathering crowd, "I bought many cars in my lifetime, but I've never seen a purchase make such an impact on so many people." As Maya completed the paperwork with David Chen and Marcus, other changes were visibly taking place around the showroom. James Mitchell was removing the priority customer flags from their computer system. Sarah Chen was updating their website to include a new section about their commitment to inclusive customer service. Rosa was proudly giving input on where to place new feedback boxes throughout the dealership. The young trainee who had witnessed everything approached Maya with a question that touched her heart. "Dr. Richardson," he asked, "would you be willing to mentor me? I want to learn how to handle difficult situations with the same grace you showed today." Maya smiled warmly. "Of course, Marcus. Leadership isn't just about position, it's about how you handle challenges and inspire change." As the final papers were signed and the keys were officially handed over, David Chen made one last announcement to everyone in the showroom. "Today marks a new chapter for Elite Motors. Thanks to Dr. Richardson, we're not just selling cars anymore, we're building a community where everyone is valued equally." Maya stood beside her new Mercedes, its silver paint gleaming under the showroom lights. She had come to buy a car, but had accomplished something far more significant. The security cameras that had recorded her initial humiliation had also captured the transformation that followed. A transformation that would serve as a template for other businesses in the community. As she prepared to drive her new car home, Maya noticed something touching. Every single person in the dealership, from the salespeople to the customers, stood and applauded. Not for the car purchase, but for the change she had inspired through her dignity, wisdom, and leadership. 6 months after the memorable Saturday at Elite Motors, the dealership had become a very different place. Maya's silver S-Class Mercedes pulled into the parking lot for her monthly diversity board meeting. The changes she noticed immediately brought a smile to her face. The showroom now displayed a large welcome sign in multiple languages. The sales team had transformed. There were people of all backgrounds wearing Elite Motors name badges, greeting customers with genuine warmth. Marcus, now a full-fledged sales manager and diversity coordinator, stood at the entrance, welcoming visitors with confidence. "Dr. Richardson," Marcus called out enthusiastically, "wait until you see our latest numbers." He held a tablet showing the dealership's performance charts. Customer satisfaction ratings had jumped from 4.2 to 4.8 stars. More importantly, the ratings were now consistent across all customer demographics. Rosa Martinez, no longer just the cleaning lady, now supervised customer service training while continuing her role on the diversity board. She had her own office next to the sales floor, where she monitored customer experiences and mentored new employees. "Dr. Richardson," Rosa said, greeting Maya with a hug, "yesterday we had a young black woman come in. She was a medical student. You know what she told me? She said she chose to come here because she heard about what happened that day. Your story inspired her." The conference room, where the transformation had begun 6 months ago, was now called the Richardson Room. Its walls displayed photographs and testimonials from customers of all backgrounds, sharing their positive experiences. Rick Peterson's story of change was prominently featured. He had become one of their most successful salespeople, known for his fair and respectful treatment of all customers. David Chen appeared, looking pleased. "Dr. Richardson, our new approach has spread to all 5 of our dealership locations. Sales are up 35%, but more importantly, we're making a real difference in how the automotive industry treats people." Sarah Chen joined them, carrying fresh marketing materials. "Our story was featured in Business Weekly," she said excitedly. "Other dealerships across the country are asking about our diversity program. We've had requests from 23 businesses to share our training materials." The young medical student Rosa had mentioned approached Maya shyly. "Dr. Richardson, I'm Ashley Williams, second year at Central Medical. Your story gave me courage. When the salesperson here treated me with respect, I actually cried. Thank you for standing up that day." Maya watched as Ashley was professionally assisted by one of the new salespeople, a young Hispanic woman who had been hired as part of Elite Motors' new inclusive hiring initiative. The scene was dramatically different from that Saturday 6 months ago. Tom Roberts, who had kept his promise to help develop training materials, walked in for the monthly board meeting. "Maya," he called out, using her first name now that they had become friends. "The school district wants to use our training video in their business education classes. Your story is becoming a teaching tool." James Mitchell, the sales manager who had witnessed the original confrontation, approached with his monthly report. "Dr. Richardson, we've completely eliminated customer complaints about discrimination. Our new system of serving customers in order of arrival, regardless of appearance or vehicle, has become our standard practice." The Diversity Advisory Board meeting that day was filled with positive updates. Elite Motors had become a model for other businesses in the community. They had implemented a scholarship program for minority students interested in automotive careers, named in Maya's honor. As the meeting concluded, Maya walked through the showroom one last time. She paused by the spot where she had stood 6 months ago, ignored and dismissed. Now, a plaque hung on the wall. "Every person who walks through these doors deserves respect, dignity, and equal treatment." Her phone buzzed with a text from her mother. "Proud of you, baby. Your father would have loved to see this." Maya smiled, touching the Mercedes key in her pocket. The car had been her original goal, but the legacy she created meant so much more. Outside, the sun was setting behind the dealership's new sign, "Elite Motors, where everyone is welcome." Maya watched as diverse groups of customers and employees moved through the showroom, each person treated with the respect they deserved. Her moment of humiliation had transformed into a movement of change, proving that one person's dignity and determination could create ripples of transformation far beyond a single Saturday afternoon.